So, who am I anyway? Who is this mad person coming through the screen? My name's Laura Walker. I'm co-founder of Memory Matters Southwest, which I run and co-founded with my sister-in-law, Kate. Some of you will know us, and some of you will know us well. Some of you, this will be the first time that you've met me. Memory Matters is an organisation that works with people who are living with dementia and supports them. We're a community interest company, and this year we are going all out with looking at prevention of dementia as well. So I've been working for the last 6 months on a project to help people to reduce their risk factors in getting dementia. So this is part of what this is, this webinar, and also, we're looking for a different income stream as well. We're a CIC, which means we're a social enterprise. We trade for good rather than profit, which is great. So unlike a charity that shakes its tin, we actually provide value, and we sell that value to be able to help people who perhaps can't afford care. So I'm co-founder of that, and also of a cafe that we opened this year in Plymouth in the southwest, which is a reminiscence cafe where you could come and spend lots of time in the different eras. So you'll see, I get confused with pointing when I'm on a camera, but you can see that we here have sort of reminiscence photographs and things that you can look at, and in the cafe it's even more so. We have lots of furniture from the different eras, from the 1950s right the way through to the 1980s, and you can sit where you like, have a cup of tea, and also people can come and get support and some help and find out what you can do to stave off dementia, as well as support those who have a diagnosis of dementia and their families too. So that's me. I've also got 3 beautiful children. I'm a mum, which comes first before anything else, and also I've got a dog who's just about to give birth, and she looks a little bit like a pear at the moment, sort of that shape, which is quite exciting. So that's a little bit about me and who I am. Should we just crack on now with the lesson? So what's normal when it comes to brains and memory and getting older? It's something that I get asked time and time again, and actually the whole reason why I put together this new program that we're going to be launching tomorrow. There's so much deterioration, I'm afraid, that you can expect when you get older. It is just part of it. So if I was to say to you, when you were 18, could you run up a hill quite fast? It's quite possible that you would be able to do that without too much of a problem. Later on in life, that might be a bit harder to run up that hill. So what I'm trying to explain is that our bodies, as they get older, they get more achy, more creaky. It's harder to get up off the floor. Well, you can expect the same from your brain as well. So part of not remembering things is getting older, I'm afraid. Some of it is to do with stress as well, and we'll look at that in a minute. But you can expect slower thinking as you get older, and it's really not that much to worry about. Word finding difficulties are something that people tell me all the time they have problems with. I also have difficulties finding words often, and you'll probably find that as we go along today. Word finding difficulties are a common problem, but you'll find that people who actually have a dementia, that's actually really quite debilitating, and it's very different from the memory and from the word finding difficulties that we might experience. Word finding difficulties are much more, you're much more likely to have them if you're stressed. So the more stressed we are, the more difficult it is for our brain to work. So one key thing that you take away from today is it's about relaxation and ensuring that you're not too stressed. The next thing is it's really quite normal to have blanks. You know, when you just completely forget what you're talking about. I just did it then. When you completely forget what you're talking about, and or somebody's coming towards you and you can't remember their name, absolute blank. Going up the stairs, completely forget why you went up the stairs. In front of a cupboard, thinking, I don't know why I opened this cupboard in the first place. All of those things are really quite normal. So it's probably bad news that I'm telling you, because I know that when people say, I'm worried about my memory, that very often what I'm saying is actually it's quite normal to do that. There are some things that I want to look at so that you can see the difference. So when people say to me, well, I lose my keys all the time, I'm always losing my keys, therefore I feel like I might have a problem. What I always say is losing your keys is quite normal, particularly if you don't always put them in the same place. I sound like somebody's mother now, put things in the same place. But if you forget your keys or you can't find your keys, that wouldn't be something to worry about. But what would worry me is if you didn't know what that key was for, you couldn't remember what that key opened, or all your keys opened, then that for me would be alarm bells. Forgetting appointments, it happens, and it happens when you've got a busy life, or your mind's on other things. So forgetting appointments, again, I wouldn't say was a massive problem, but if you completely forgot why you've even got that appointment, or you forget making the appointment, or even what the appointment's for, or who it is, or who they are, then again, coupled with other things, that might be alarm bells ringing in terms of getting that checked out. What about losing your car? This is something that I've done on, well, actually, and even last week I did this in a supermarket car park. So, and this is actually just about concentrating. And in a minute, we're going to go on to what we can do to improve our memory. But one of the key things is concentrating. And I, for one, particularly when I've got 3 children and lots of things on my mind, and I've parked the car and I just have not concentrated at all. So I've got out the car, I've sort of got everybody out of the car, and I'm in the supermarket. I haven't even thought about it. Come out again, and I actually can't remember even whereabouts in the car park I parked. It's lucky I've got some children to remind me. That is literally down to me not concentrating. So again, that's not something that I would be concerned about. What I would be concerned about, however, is if you couldn't remember how you got there. So if you actually came out of that supermarket and thought, I don't remember how I got here. Did I drive? Did I get the bus? Now, we all have these moments of having to think things through, but if you can't find the answer to that, then that there would be an issue. So what I wanted to do there was just show you normal forgetfulness versus maybe a bit more than normal forgetfulness, and maybe it's something to check out. So why do we forget? I'm just going to talk you through how memory works in a very basic way, because I'm a very basic person. 3 things happen really, basically. So registering, okay? So the first thing you have to do is register, and that part of that is concentrating, what we were talking about just now. So if I don't listen, or I don't hear, or I don't concentrate what I'm being told, I haven't got a hope in remembering. So let's say my husband says to me, could you pick up some dog food on the way home? Yes, I first need to hear what it is that he wants me to do, and I need to register it. So, and part of that might be me thinking about food, might be picturing the food and what it looks like. So registering has to happen first, and then we file it. Now, just again, to keep it really simple, I'm just going to look at 2 parts of memory, or 3 parts really. And the first part is the working memory. So the working memory is where we keep things in our head for as long as we need to. So a good example of our working memory is when we're driving. So if we're driving along and we've got a car behind us and a car in front of us, and the car behind us is overtaking, then we need to be aware of what's going on. So we hold that in our working memory, because we're working with it at the time. Once that car has overtaken and gone on, and 5 minutes later, I don't need to remember that a car even overtook me, and my brain will filter that information out. I certainly wouldn't remember it was a red Mercedes and there was a woman driving. I just wouldn't, because my brain doesn't need it, so it throws it out. So that's our working memory. Short-term memory are the memories that we hold from very short term. So what did you have for breakfast this morning? Now, if you could type, if I could see you typing, I'll be able to see that. I'm going to check in a minute to see if I can get some communication from you. If you see the text box, do type in there. So your short-term memory, what you had for breakfast this morning. I'm trying to remember what I had, hoping that it's there in my short-term memory. Yeah, I had an egg on toast. But if you asked me what I had for breakfast on July the 31st, just checking there's 31 days in July. If you asked me what I had then, I wouldn't remember. And you probably wouldn't remember unless you always have the same breakfast, which might be something like porridge or something. I'm just imagining that somebody has the same breakfast would have porridge every day. I always have somebody in my classroom when I'm teaching this who says that, and that's how they remember. So that actually is a bit of a way of remembering. If we always do the same things every day, then we can remember. But we're not really remembering, are we? We're supposing that we did because that's what we always do. Long-term memory is when we take that memory from short-term and we put it in the long-term. We're remembering it for a long, long time. So your childhood memories are in your long-term memories. There are things in there that you remember, like you remember how perhaps to get from classroom to classroom in your first school, or what the playground looked like, those sorts of things. And then the last thing is recall. So we have to register, we file it. So that's either in our working, short or long-term memory. And then the last thing we have to do is recall it, because if we can't recall it, then it's pointless. And those are the three places where memory breaks down. So registering, that's concentrating, hasn't gone in the first place. You haven't got a chance of remembering it. If you haven't filed it in the right place, and that means you might have had it for a minute in your working memory, but you haven't used it again, or you've put it in your short-term memory, but 2 weeks later, it's not in your long-term memory, so you can't recall it. And then actually the recall, so actually if you haven't filed something properly, it's much more difficult to find it. I use an analogy, and it's very simple, but I think it works. If you had a really important piece of information or a piece of paper that you needed to find later, and you wanted to find it later, the best place to put that would be into a file. So let's just say it was my driving license and I needed to find it. If I put that in a filing cabinet under D for driving license, when I need to find my driving license, it's very probable that I'll be able to find it very easily. If, however, I throw my driving license into a really untidy room, which is everything else has been thrown into, then it will be much, much harder for me to find that driving license. Now, what I'm trying to allude to is that when we remember things, we have to take time to file it. I think we ask too much of our brains when we just expect to. The other thing that we tend to do is we tend to say, I don't have a very good memory. And if I don't have a very good memory, then actually that's my excuse, isn't it? Because I don't need to try. So I'll just bung it in there and hope that I can find it later. And of course, it's really unlikely that you will. So I'm going to teach you how to do that, and particularly how to file the information that you have in some quite bizarre ways, which I hope that you'll enjoy. Now, I do feel like I'm rushing through this really quickly, and part of that's because I'm late. So I'm just going to have a quick look and see if I can check in to see if anybody's waving at me. And so just bear with me a second, see if I can find anybody there. Do type in if you can. Okay. I think I'm just going to celebrate the fact that I've managed to do a live webinar, and we'll worry about the typing bit later. You can email me as well, and I will email you after this webinar so that we can get some to and fro, and hopefully that you've enjoyed it. Right, 5 simple steps to a better memory. That's why you're here. First one, relax. Okay, seems really simple, but you need to be relaxed for your brain to work properly. Now, in simple terms, that's taking a really deep breath. So just for a moment, if you think about going into a really busy room where there's lots of people whose names you don't know, and you want to remember the names of the people in that room, well, the first thing that comes into my head is, oh my goodness me, that's really frightening. And through that comes a bit of a stress response. So I'm stressed now, so I'm much less likely to remember those names. So what I need to do is think about what I can do to reduce my stress levels. And the best way to do that is deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Well, I really needed that. Right. That's it. I'm sorted now. I'm less stressed. So that's what we need to do, is relax. And the other part of that is to focus. So relax and focus come together. So if I'm going into that room, I've taken my deep breaths and now I'm focusing. So I'm actually setting my brain an intention. Our brains work far better if we tell them what we're expecting out of them. So I'm going to be walking into that room thinking my intention is to remember people's names. So that will focus me, that will concentrate, so that I will concentrate when people tell me their names. I will be concentrating on trying to ensure I get the information. I'm going to do a lot more. I've got in part of our project, we've got a lot more to do with name remembering. So I'm not going to go into that in too much detail now, but you can stick with me to find out how you can find out more about remembering names. But I'm using that as an example here to sort of show you how you calm, relax, and focus. Concentration is the second one. So step 2 is to concentrate. Now, focusing helps you do that straight away. So you relax and concentrate first. Sorry, you relax and focus first. Will help you then with your concentration. Oh, I can see I've got viewers. Hello. I know that you can't say hello, but I can see you. That's exciting. Well, I can't actually see you. I can see that you're viewing me. Okay, so concentrate. I'm not doing a very good job. I'm getting all excited. So concentrate. This is the biggest reason that our memory lets us down, is because we literally are not concentrating. We get distracted really easily. So let's say that I've walked into that room with all of those people and I'm talking to one person who's just told me their name, and then somebody else has jumped in on the conversation, and actually behind me there's an even better conversation going on about something really exciting that somebody's doing over there. So I'm finding it really difficult now to concentrate on the fact that I am trying to remember somebody's name. We get distracted so easily, and we often just put it down to having a bad memory, but actually sometimes it's not a bad memory, it's just we're not very good at concentrating. Third step is visualizing. So our brains work far better in pictures. We are just picture people. We would remember something tangible that we can see, and we can imagine what it is to touch and sound and taste like. You know, we use our senses far better in memory than just cold, hard facts and figures. So visualizing works really, really well. And I'm going to be doing an exercise in a minute. We're going to have a bit of fun in a minute to remember a list. And we're going to use visualization, and I'll show you how it works. Now, people have said to me, I'm not a visual person. I can't visualize things. It doesn't actually matter. If you put your brain through the process of trying to visualize something, that's actually enough, and it works. Number 4 is emotion. So emotion is actually the glue that sticks that memory where it needs to go on that file. Okay, so I'll go into more detail in that in a minute, but think of emotion as the glue. So if you're trying to remember something, you need to visualize, but that visualization isn't going to mean anything unless it elicits an emotion. Okay, so just to clarify this point, I just want you to imagine somebody right now running in the room, completely stark naked, running around the room, and then they run out again. Now, I think it's really, really, very possible that you would either find that absolutely freaky and scary, or quite funny, or whatever it is that you feel, you will definitely have an emotion when that happens. And you will certainly remember that. You would remember it for so many reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is it's unusual, it's incredibly unusual, and it's emotional. It causes an emotion to happen. So when we're trying to remember something, we need to try and add an emotion to it. And we can do that in our visualization by making our visualization either a bit scary or a bit funny or a bit rude. All of those things you keep in your head, of course. You don't share how you remember somebody's name or how you remembered your supermarket list. It doesn't matter because it's in your head, it's your private thoughts. But if you can make them a little bit shocking, you're much more likely to remember them. And then your fifth step is repetition. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Having a good memory takes time and it takes effort. It doesn't just happen. And I think what tends to happen as we get older, when we're younger, our brains just work, don't they? They just work for us. So we don't have to have different techniques to remember things unless we like to do that. As we get older, we realise things are starting to slow down and we don't have those techniques in place, and we just expect the whole process of memory to work really well. And actually it's not going to unless we give it some effort. It's a bit like all types of work, mindset work. You have to keep at it. Physical exercise, it's no good doing 6 weeks of really physical exercise and getting your body really, really fit and then expecting it to continue sort of years onwards without actually putting any of the exercise in. Unfortunately, all these things take some effort. So repeating, and that is, we're going to talk about this in a minute when we do the list, but basically I'm going to teach you a list in a minute and we're going to repeat it sort of straight away after we've learnt it, and then we're going to repeat it again each time we add a few more items. Then we're going to repeat it in an hour's time. That'll be down to you to do that. And then a day, and then a week, and then a month, and then you can continue to repeat it if you want to. If you're just remembering a list to go shopping, you won't need to, it doesn't need to come out of your short-term memory. You can leave it in there. You don't need to put it in your long-term memory. But you can by repeating. Whew, I need to slow down. Right, deep breath. I've still got viewers. I'm excited. Hello. I'm so glad I'm not just doing this to nobody. It would have been a bit disappointing. I hope you're still with me. I've given up on looking at comments because I can't do it. I can completely see why somebody said to me, if you're doing a webinar, you need 2 screens. So you can see your comments and then you can see your video. But it's my first time. I'm just excited I've managed to do it. Right, this is exciting because now I'm going to teach you a list, and I'm going to teach you a list using the techniques that I have just told you. So what we're going to learn, I'm not just going to teach you a random list of boring things. I'm going to teach you a list of foods which are fantastic for your brain. And hopefully if you repeat them after a week and then after a month, this will be in your long-term memory forever, and forevermore you will be eating food that's good for you. In my brain fitness formula, I go in much more into the foods that we can eat for our brains. Obviously, you're going to have the list, you can have the secret list here, but I go much more into helping you to develop the diet and working together. I mentor all of the people who come through the group and put together different things to help with your mind diet, which is a well-researched diet which helps to slow the process of the aging brain. Okay, and that's just part of it. The food bit's only one module. Okay. So food. So what we're going to do is we're going to use something called the journey method. Okay, so the journey method is a method that was it wasn't, I wouldn't even say it was developed. It was many years ago in Rome. There was an orator, a man who did lots of speeches, and he was speaking to a hall full of people, and he stepped outside for some fresh air, and the hall collapsed, and everybody, it's a bit of a gloomy story, but unfortunately the people in the hall all died, and to identify them all, he had to retrace where he was on the stage and try and work out who was where in the room, and he was able to do it. Because he obviously had a very good memory, but he didn't realize it. We as humans are very good at placing things in places, and lots of memory techniques use spaces to put things in to remember them. So this is what we're going to do. But instead of putting them around a room, we're going to put them on our body, because that's quite nice and useful, because you've got your body always. So, okay. So we're going to use our body, and we're going to start with our feet, okay? So I want you to just be a bit physical. If you're standing up, if you're sitting down, you can still stamp your feet. So we're going to use our feet, and what we're going to do is we're going to remember olive oil. So to do that, the file is my feet. That's where I'm going to put it. So remember the filing cabinet that I talked about putting your driving license in? Well, your file here is your feet, okay? So what we've got to do is think about a visualization which will help us to remember the olive oil. And now to do that, I've got to glue the olive oil onto my feet. So the best way to do that, when I talk about glue, is I don't mean physically glue it, but I have to, when I'm thinking about, I'm going to be thinking about my feet first. What is it that's on my feet that I've got to remember? And it's olive oil. So the best way to do that, you can come up with your own visualization. And I do ask you to try this again later for a different list, because you will be amazed that you can have many, many different lists on your body, and you will know what lists are with what. We'll start with one list, olive oil on your feet. So I want you to imagine running in a pool of olive oil. So you'll be slipping all over the place. What that's going to do is give you a bit of an emotion as well, because I'm imagining that's going to be a bit scary. There's movement in the visualization as well that really helps. So I want you to imagine just for a minute, what would that feel like? Think about the olive oil oozing through your toes. The best visualizations are the ones that you really think about what that would feel like. Okay, just for a minute. So you might want to imagine you're in a puddle of olive oil. You might want to add the bottle of olive oil as well. I mean, some people have, when they've talked about doing this before, have smashed the bottle of olive oil. So you've got that added danger of the glass. But I just want you to try, for me, to imagine that olive oil with coming into contact with your feet. So that's the first one. Olive oil in the Mind diet, they recommend that you use olive oil for all of your cooking and for everything. Knees is the next one. So the next file is our knees. So you'll see that you're working up your body from feet to knees. Now on your knees, I want you to imagine green leafy vegetables. Okay, green leafy vegetables. So think about that for a minute. You're going to put them on your knees. Now I came up with this idea. Obviously, I did this list a while ago. So I thought about making knee pads out of the leafy vegetables and strapping them onto your knees. But then where's the emotion in that? So then I was thinking, well, what about if it rubbed on, I've got my best trousers on, and it rubs and leaves this awful green stain on my knees. Now that's going to make me annoyed. That gives me an emotion. So I've got annoyance going on. So the green leafy veg on my knees, leaving a stain on my trousers. So they recommend green leafy vegetables, 6 servings of green leafy vegetables a week, just as an aside. The next thing that I want you to remember is nuts. And we're going to come up the body from the knees, and I would like you to imagine you've got a lovely pair of knickers on and that you've got nuts in your knickers. Now, whenever I say this, usually I don't need to add any emotion or anything, because you probably add your own emotion to having nuts in your knickers. So nuts, 5 servings a week you should be eating. Okay, so I want you to imagine those. Maybe they're big baggy knickers and the nuts are all sort of falling all over the place. Or perhaps they're tight knickers, I don't mind. But it's your visualization. Just imagine nuts in your knickers. So next we're going to come up the body to our navel, okay, or our tummy button. And I want you to visualize your tummy button is the file, red wine is the thing that I want you to stick to your file. So red wine stuck to your navel. Okay, now I thought about imagining, you know, those boxes of wine and you've got the tap. So I was imagining a tap in my navel, and the red wine's all spilling out again down my best trousers again. So that's a bit strange enough to remember, I hope, but you may come up with your own. So I need you to attach your red wine to your tummy button and make sure you've got an emotion, because you need the emotion as glue. We're going to do one more and then we're going to review it. What I should have done is done a little test at the beginning to see if you could remember 10 things. Most people can remember sort of 5, 6, 7 without a technique. But with a technique, 10. In fact, loads more than 10. So the next one, we've moved up from our tummy button. Remember, we've got our wine tap or whatever it is that you've fixed wine into your tummy. It's red wine, by the way, and you should be having 1 glass a day on the Mind diet. It's good for your brain. 1 glass a day, no more, no less. The next thing is beans. Okay, so any type of beans, and I want you to imagine beans in your bra. Now, if I've got people obviously watching who don't wear bras, imagine you are wearing a bra. And in your bra is beans of some sort. Now, you might want to imagine baked beans, kidney beans, hard beans, soft beans. Perhaps you're shoplifting the beans. Imagine that. There's an emotion. They're chasing you. You've got beans in your bra. Just imagine it for a minute. When I've done this before, I've also suggested that perhaps the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk's chasing you. You can really go wild on your imagination. Just make sure that you have an emotion that's attached to it. Now, you should be having 3 or more servings a week of beans or legumes. I don't know how to say it, but lentils and that sort of thing. 3 or more servings a week, good for your brain. Now we're going to repeat all of these before we go on to the next 5, okay? So what's on your feet? What are you slipping around in? Oh, I so wish you could type. What's on your knees? By the way, it was olive oil, just in case you need to re-visualize that. On your knees, oh, I've got a green stain. It's green leafy vegetables. Green leafy vegetables I've made into knee pads on my knees. What's in your knickers? Nuts. In your navel or on your navel, perhaps you're pouring red wine into your navel. And in your bra, what have you shoplifted? What's in your bra? Beans. Okay, brilliant. So we're going to go on to the next 5. So, I'm going to use our neck now. So we've gone up from our bra to our neck. Around the neck, we're going to make an amazing necklace made of chickens. So imagine them all clucking, and you've got them all around your neck. If you don't have to have clucking chickens, but you do need to put chickens around your neck somewhere. It's actually poultry is recommended 2 or more servings a week. Obviously, if you're vegetarian, you can avoid the chicken, but it's one of the 10 foods that's highly recommended. So 2 or more servings a week of chicken. So imagine this chicken necklace. They're clucking around and scratching you with their claws. It's really unpleasant. Chickens around your neck. Any other way that you want to attach chickens around your neck, or poultry, what comes to mind when you think of poultry, do so. It does work much better if you come up with your own imaginative way of thinking of something, because actually that process of imagining is also really good. Next is your mouth, and on your mouth or in your mouth, I want you to imagine a fish. Okay, so maybe it's that you've got the fish in between your teeth and it's flapping flapping away it is in your mouth. Once or more a week to have some fish. It's good for you. So oily fish flapping about. Then it's your ears. So we've gone chicken necklace, we've gone fish in the mouth flapping about, and now we're on to our ears. And on our ears we are going to put blueberries. Okay, so I want you to imagine blueberry earrings, like 2 lovely juicy blueberries just stuck on your ears. Squish them in so you get all the juice running down your neck. Visualize it as much as you can. 2 or more servings of berries a week. So the Mind Diet really looks at berries. Berries are very good for us. Next is your nose. And again, it recommends an extra vegetable a day. So at least 1 vegetable a day. And I'm sure a lot of you do more than that anyway. But I'm going to choose 2 carrots just because they stick really nicely up my nose. Ow! See, already that makes you wince, doesn't it? Oh, sticking carrots up your nose. That's the whole point. It's meant to make you go, ah, or ooh, or yuck. We're likely to remember it better. So 2 carrots stuck up my nose. And then the final thing is my head. And I'm going to make the most wonderful hat out of a very big, gorgeous loaf of wholemeal even bread, wholemeal bread hat on my head. And that's to remind us that we need 3 or more portions of whole grain a week. So not necessarily bread, but whole grain is really good for us. So if we're going to choose pastas or I can't think of anything else, or bread, use whole grain. Right, so let's review the last 5. So what's around our neck? Chickens. What's in our mouth? It's a fish. Ears. Squashing the berries. 2 carrots up my nose. And what a lovely whole grain hat I have made. So right, let's do the whole thing. What is then on? I don't know why I'm looking at my notes. I know it off by heart because I've stuck it on me. Right, what's on my feet? I'm slipping about. What have you got on your feet? Olive oil. What have you got on your knees? Green leafy veg. We go up from our knees to where? Knickers. What's in your knickers? Nuts. What? What's in your tummy button, your navel? What are you remembering about your navel? 1 glass of wine a day. So I've got my little tap on my navel. Okay, that takes me up to my bra. What's in my bra? I'm stealing beans. Beans in my bra. Which takes me up to my neck, where I've got chickens. To my mouth, oily fish. What have I got squashed on my ears? Berries. Up my nose, 2 carrots, reminding us to make sure that we have at least 1 extra vegetable a day. And then my fine hat of whole grain loaf. I've got a loaf. Brilliant. That is fantastic. So that is how we remember things. And the more bizarre and silly, the better. And actually, do you know what? Life's about having fun. So why not use fun ways to remember things, I reckon. So that leaves me, I was going to do a question and answer session, which I'm really disappointed about because I can't do it because I haven't got the ability to see your comments at the moment. I'll make sure that when I do my next live webinar, I will have a much better setup so that I can see everything. I think I said to you, this was my first time I've done a live webinar, so I did expect there to be a few hiccups, but I wasn't expecting so much. Those of you that are signed up for my brain fitness formula, I'm really looking forward to working with you, and hopefully I'll have better word usage. So I'll be doing that over from when you sign up to the next 6 weeks. If you haven't yet signed up for the brain fitness course, do consider it. It is good fun. I've put a lot of research and a lot of work into it over the last, well, since the summer. I've been researching, making all the videos, and making the process nice and easy so that you can go through the modules on a weekly basis and, you know, actually really get your brain working in the best possible way. And during that also there's a mentorship, so you'll actually be part of a group of other people who will be going through the course at the same time, which is lovely. And I've got lots of interaction going on already with people making some massive change. I mean, real proper massive changes in their life, which is so exciting to see them taking up new hobbies that are really good in terms of the whole idea of use it or lose it. So I'm seeing people taking up new hobbies. I'm seeing people adjusting their diet. People are exercising more, and all with the support of the group. So it's absolutely fantastic to see. I'm really, really excited about it. And I've also made some massive changes myself in terms of looking at the research and changing my diet slightly as well. I mean, I definitely wasn't eating enough nuts, nuts in my knickers, and don't put them there. But there is so much that you can do to slow the process of an aging brain, and actually to get your brain working in tip-top condition. I'm such a good advert for my own product. And that's the other fact. There's lots of fun. There's lots of fun to be had. So if you haven't already, do think about signing up to my course. If it's not the right time, then join my Facebook group, where there will be lots going on there in terms of supporting each other, and lots of freebies going on as well. But I wholeheartedly say to you, do sign up sooner rather than later, because actually my mentor said to me that I am not charging enough for the course. But what I'm saying is we're just launching it, so let's just do it. And obviously we're a non-profit, so join. Anyway, that's it. That's my little pitch over. I put this course together about 7 years ago in a village hall. I had, I think it was 6 or 7 women who came along weekly, and we worked on how we could better use our brain. We did lots of different exercises, and that was 7 years ago. Since then, I've been working really hard on working with people with a diagnosis of dementia, and I'm now coming back to looking at the progress that I worked on back then. And as I say, I've worked on the last 6 months to put this together. So do follow me, and thank you. I think I just need to say thank you. I'm wittering on, and I just need to say thank you. And thank you for those of you that attended. I apologise to those that were hanging around for a while before I got on, but I do really, really appreciate you attending. And I look forward to catching you up soon. I will email you all, and you can always email me too. Bye.